So good afternoon everyone. Today we have a last lecture on the module 1. We continue to talk about the cladding design. So we talk about the more detail how you assemble frame and your glazing system. Also we talk about the sun shading device. So let's talk about the glazing system first. So there's two different glazing system, the small light frame and large light system. For small light, it is mostly used for the small scale architecture. It doesn't consider excessive wind forces or stresses. So let's look at some manufacturing process. First, the frame and the glazing is pre-manufactured in the factory, then sealed on outside on a construction site. So you can just kind of find out from the drawing. So you can see they are mostly using the wood framed because they don't too much consider about the weight. And then they installed this glazing system and using this compound to hold the glass from the frame. Same thing, you can just having this simple frame profile and then just locating the frame and then using the glazing compound to hold in your glass system. What about the large light frame? The large light glass need more consideration about assemblage. Typical single panel has approximately 125 pound weight. However, it can be smaller or bigger depending on the project type. So what you guys consider when you design large light frame? First one, you have to be consider about the glass weight, and then you also consider about the wind pressure because large light frame is mostly using for the high-rise building. It means depending on the location, it has the different wind pressure. So it means you have to provide different the framing type or different glass type. So that's why you have to be consider about wind pressure. Next one, you have to be consider about thermal structure expansion or contraction because it affects the cladding. So that's why last time we talked about when you're designing between the glass frame or cladding and the structure, you always have to provide the tolerance space. So that's why we're using some sealant and silicone to protect the movement. Okay. So I think I just gonna bring it out the idea using this large light frame. It is Shanghai Tower designed by Gensler. It is two-skin tower having the large light frame. So they have a double skin system. Inside they actually continuous the slab platform which is the occupying the program, and then they just cover the glass layer over it. So means this double glaze system is possibly making the huge open space, locating close to the glass part and glass skin. So you can just kind of see more here. So this is actual structure slab here, and then you can see the core, and then this double skin system using the large light frame, and then between the space you can make in the huge atrium space. So it means making it the common space here. So I just kind of bring it out the one video to introduce about this project. Then I just introducing about the more glazing system here. Okay. So let's watch this video together.
Shanghai, China. It's the largest metropolis on Earth, suffering under the burden of 23 million people. But something is happening here, which may change the way our cities work forever.
This building is actually one of its kind. No one has ever built this type of building before.
A haven with every amenity, with clean air, and with sunlit gardens perched high above the crowded streets. It is the Shanghai Tower, the city within the city, and it is a super skyscraper. For more than 100 years, Shanghai has been China's commercial powerhouse. It has been expanding unchecked, and it shows no signs of stopping. The city is reaching a crisis point.
所以城市病的现象，在这个城市当中也会有体现。
Pudong, where the Shanghai Tower is being built, looked like this in 1985. This is Pudong today.
We have great density, the city, and there's so much population. And the infrastructure in the streets, it's relatively old.
All in all, the city had become a tough place to live. And it was clear that a radical idea was needed before life in Shanghai became impossible. The team behind the Shanghai Tower selected a site across the river from the old heart of the city, known as the Bund. Historically a financial center, it's now also a place for people to relax, eat, and shop. The intention was to create a version of this for the 21st century.
Traditionally speaking, a city with that length, with a major street, arterial street go across, and they have a horizontal streets, divide them into blocks. Each of them have a street corner and have maybe some kind of community park, and have a restaurant, coffee shops, and hotels, offices horizontally. Then you lift them into vertical, and this is actually how the Shanghai Tower is.
To meet the needs of modern Shanghai, they wouldn't use cars to get around.
We are offering you all aspects of your life. Either you go to work, you have food, or you have entertainment.
They'd have hotels, restaurants, shops, but most importantly, space.
In the building, they have this neighborhood community, make them feel easy to live in the building.
But given that Shanghai is already full, there was only one way left to build, and that was up.
做一个形象的比喻，就是现在我们上海的外滩，我们是57万多平方，基本接近了，就是把它竖起来了。
This is the vision. A solid core reaching a third of a mile into the sky. 121 floors divided into 9 separate sections or levels. Encased inside a glass curtain wall, it rises 2,073 feet. And covering the entire structure, a second skin made of smooth, twisting glass. And the gap between them will be for gardens with up to 180 feet of headroom. In the middle of a polluted megacity, there will be light, there will be trees, there will be space, and there will be cool, fresh air.
Shanghai Tower is going to be truly a vertical city, and where people can work, live, and play. That's the vision.
The large light glass has more tricky to hold the glazing system, the bi-frame, because it requires lots of consideration. First one, when you consider to design the light, you have to be considered to design the blocks. Okay, so you can see the blocks here. This block is actually between the glazing system and your frame. This is kind of more about the buffer space to hold your glass better. The next one, you have to be consider the depth of grip. So it means you have to provide proper depth to hold your glazing system. You have to be making it deep enough to hold in your glass. Okay, and then you also considering about the waterproofing and then the tightness connection assemblage between the frame and glass. So from this region, you have to be add rubber gasket here. Okay, this rubber gasket actually protect water, and also it hold your glass tightly from the frame. Now, how can you put together between glass and window frame? there are two types of glazing system for holding the glass properly, between the window frame and glazing. The first one, wet glazing system. It is gunnable wet seal between frame and window. You can see the gunnable, the sealant. And then dry glazing is the preformed rubber gasket. You can see the rubber gasket here. So what is different? What is about the advantage and disadvantage per each the glazing type? The wet glazing can improve the water resistant penetration. However, it has the disadvantage of curtain, such as exterior access of installation, because it has to be the install from the outside when using the wet glazing, because it have to be sealed from the outside. So what is about the disadvantage about this part? It means this labor have to be workmanship, and then so it is also effect depending on the weather and also depending on the labor experience. It means it is more expensive comparing to the dry glazing because it is more labor charge, and then also considering about the weather condition. It means it also affects the cost of this glazing type. However, the wet glazing is sealed from the outside. It means it is much better the water protection comparing to the dry glazing. But dry glazing is more common way. What is about the dry glazing? So dry glazing less dependent on the workmanship and weather, because dry glazing simply used free-formed gasket. It means this is simply installed from the construction site. It also installed from the inside. You don't need to be the install from the outside. So it is faster and easier and less dependent on the workmanship. From this region, it is much lower cost compared to the wet glazing. That's why dry glazing is more common way compared to the wet glazing. However, this is a weaker waterproofing compared to the wet glazing because this rubber gasket is not a permanent material. So that's why I have to be keep the maintaining the rubber gasket periodically. So looking at the more dry glazing type, so first one you can see the gasket. The gasket from the dry glazing, it is usually made by rubber, so you can choose various form depending on your window framing type. So it will tightly seal between the glass and the frame. Next type, the solid material, which is we can call the performed cellular tape. So cellular tape, it is sponge material. You can see sponge material. It is able to install the joint easily because of flexible material. It means easy to fill any types about some pattern and any types about some joint. Because about the sponge easy to fit in anywhere, but after filling it, it is expanding and protect the water. But you guys all know about the sponge is the perforated material. That's why you need to have extra protection here. Next one is the free-formed solid tape. The free-formed solid tape, you guys can find that this free-formed the solid tape anywhere. It is sticky ribbon. It has a double stick tape here. So it means it's very easy to install any place. So also you can this is easy to assemble from the frame and glass. So it is sticky ribbon tape for dry glazing used in the lap joint. You can see the lap joint here, and easy to install over your glass. So I just kind of bring it another video. So look at the overall construction process of a glazing system on your facade. And when you see this glazing system, let's jumping to the MULLIONLESS glazing system. Okay, let's watch this video together. You remember about the spandrel glass over the insulated panel? You see the wet graining system. So we're gonna looking at the glazing connection system from the following chapter. So we talk about the glazing system, the MULLIONLESS. So when you want uninterrupted view out of the building, you might consider about the MULLIONLESS design. So how can we build window without the frame? The first option is the butt joint. The butt joint is one solution. It's used by colorless silicone sealant between the panel. So you can simply having the sealant and silicone, which is colorless sealant and silicone between the two panel. So you can connect the glazing panel to panel. And then this main structure actually locating top and bottom. This the frame holding the glazing panel mainly. And then to connect to the face of the glass, it used the silicone based material. Look at this image. It is more strongly effect of the unbroken horizontal window. Okay, so means it can provide more landscape kind of vision from the interior space. So let's look at the next type. This is a butt joint with exposed horizontal strip. So means from the outside you only see this horizontal layer, and then you can see the continuous glazing system from the outside. However, inside they're using this vertical mullion. So means when you see from the inside, you can still see these vertical pieces and this horizontal mullion together. But when you're making the high-rise building, sometimes butt joint doesn't work because it's too weak. So that's why you have to be provide this vertical mullion, but you don't want to making out this vertical joint from the outside. From this region, this is a little bit setback from the finished level, and then it has some glazing system over this vertical frame. So between the glass and vertical mullion, it has to be provide the rubber gasket because of the protect the water, and then air tightness, also reduce the friction between the metal and the glass. So you can also see that this project, even you cannot find any the horizontal frame and vertical frame. So in this case, you can consider the silicone flush glazing. So remember about this is a structure, the silicone. So you remember about the butt joint. It's just using the normal sealant. However, so when you just kind of hold your glass tightly, you have to be consider structural silicone flush glazing, which is you have to be concerned about the structural silicon. Okay, so you can see how you can use the silicon, the structural silicon over the frame. From the inside, you can still see the mullion. Okay, so this mullion actually covered from the cap, because it is only giving the more about the cream view from the inside. And also having the two glazing system here, the glazing 1 and glazing 2, is simply the click into the framing system. However, so you have to be considered connecting between the two glazing system tightly. You can see that these vertical pieces or these horizontal pieces. How you can connecting together tightly? So you can just consider to using a structure silicon here. This is a structure silicon, and then it holds these two glazing tightly. Also, it is protect water and air very well. You can just merge the image here. This is an internal the mullion system, and then you can see the more about the continuous, the profiled, the exterior glazing. So that's why this vertical or horizontal line, you only see the structure sealant from here. Okay. So if you do not want to use a structure silicon, you might consider the spacer glazing system. So you can see this one using the structure silicon. But if you don't want to use the structure silicon, you can consider this one. This is aluminum spacer. We can call it spacer glazing system. Okay, spacer glazing system. So this plate actually hold these two glass very tightly, and then this plate is also help to connect this vertical or horizontal the mullion inside. And then to protect bolt head, you have to be add this sealant outside. Okay. So let's talk about suspend glazing and glass mullion system. So suspended assemblies or spider glazing system is another option. Suspended glazing is mostly used for the tall glass wall like Apple store, and it uses the tempered glass. So you remember about what is tempered glass? Heat treated glass is usually 4 to 5 times stronger. So means when you consider about the suspended glass, you have to be support the heavy weight glass. So means it have to be stronger glass you use to hold in this weight. And also you have to be consider laminate glass. You remember laminate glass is sandwiching panel. The single glass is might hard to support this heavy glass. So that's why it laminate 2, 3, 4, 5, just laminating together to hold in this heavyweight glass. Okay, so Apple Store they mostly having the 5 different layer put together to hold in this huge glass system. For the spider glazing system, it can adjust load. You can see that this adjust load. It can be it can be changed depending on the distance between the glazing and the supporting point. So let's look at the Apple Store in the detail. So you can see this is New York Apple Store. So this aluminum or stainless frame actually all MEP system hide into the box, and also you can see the lighting fixture, which is the uplight fixture, and then this air conditioning. So and also you can see this is the trench outside, because the water usually coming in, and then to protect the water getting into the space, they actually trench all around the building. Okay, and also you can see they have the suspended glazing here. You can see it's 5 different layers put together, which is they use the tempered glass, but they also using the 5 different layers sandwiching together, which is we can call the laminate glass. Now this laminate glass hold these huge 2 glazing system, and then 2 glazing system holded by this clip system here. This clip is actually holding these 2 glass and then these 2 glass together. Okay, So main structure is this laminate glass, and then the exterior glazing simply hold it by the laminate glass here. So next one is the Apple store in San Francisco. You can see that this huge single panel glass panel door. So it is 42 feet from here to here. It's super big, right? But they do not making the frame here. They do not making the horizontal frame because their design philosophy, like a design Apple, they want to make it a more seamless design, like Apple iPhone design. So therefore, they want to reflecting this design philosophy to their design, the store design. So from this region, they have to make this huge glazing system. But consider about that this is a single layer of glass. It's never standing because about this too weak. From this region, this glazing system have 5 different layers together, put together, to standing over the ground. Okay, so I heard this project cost is about 23.6 million. Even it looks like a simple box. However, there were lots of the detail consideration, like designing about this laminate glass, designing about the glass, the stair. There were lots of consideration to design. That's why the project cost is super high to designing about this project. Even when you see that this a famous the Apple the glass stair, you can see this glass, the guardrail, and then you can see the glass step, street. You can see they have 5 different layers together, and also you can see the 5 different layers together to making out the stair to making the guardrail. So means single layer is hard to support to the weight. So that's why it's one way to making the stronger glass using the temporary glass, and also have to be sandwiching together, which is the laminate glass to use. Okay, so what do you think about the cost of this single stair design construction fee? It is $1 million stair. Okay, so means they just designed the 2 stair here and on the other side. They spent $2 million for the stair. So next one we have to talk about the curvature flameless glazing wall. You can see that this one is more curved shape. So you can consider to use the spider. Okay, you can see the spider. Because they just kind of designing about this curved frame, truss structure, and then to designing about the curved glass, you have to be considered to using the spider because it is adjust the load depending on the dimension and distance requirement. So simply designing about the spider, they just change the load distance, okay, to control the curvature. So you can see more in the detail. This spider, so mostly supported by these horizontal and vertical cable. You can see this spider hold this corner of the glass. However, when you want to make it a more tight connection, so this spider have to be connect on the column. Okay, this is a structural column here. So and then still supported by the cable. So this spider supported by the mainly column and the cable together. Okay. So that's why if you need to obtain additional stiffness where the cable system is tied to the adjacent column, so means this column is requirement when you want to having the tight connection or stronger connection. So look at in the detail, you can see the cable and spider system tied to the column to support the panel. So you can see the column, and then this adjust the load, and then this is the main spider body, and then it supported by the cable and also mainly supported by the column here. So let's look at the next image here. So you can see all the flameless roof glass. How can you design the mullionless roof? So let's look at this image. This image is laminate glass fin. You can see the fin here. This is like a beam here. The laminate glass fin support the glass roof. It means the weight of a glass roof, the transfer to this fin, which is like a beam, and then also you can find out this vertical load here. And then when load transfer from the roof to this fin, and then load is also distributed to this vertical load. Okay, here, and also here and here. Then this vertical load actually connect to the cable, and the load is distributed to the cable, and then this cable connect the steel truss system. You can see the truss system. The cable connect the truss system. It means it distribute the load to the truss, and then this truss is connected to the column. Okay, so this is a means load actually from the ceiling, the transfer to the laminate glass fin, and then transfer to this vertical load, and then transfer to the cable, and then this cable transfer to the truss, and then truss transfer to the column. Okay, so you're understanding about how load distribute to the ground level. Okay, so now we talk about aluminum extrusion for the window frame. The window frame mostly using the aluminum extrusion fabrication process. So extrusion is defined as the process of shaping material by forcing it to flow through a shaped opening. So you can see this is a simple diagram. So this is a extrusion die. Depending on this shape, you can get in some desired pattern. So simply you can use the heated aluminum block, and then this piston pushing in, and then like a toothpaste, depending on some pattern here, you can get in the desired shape here. So the window frame use the aluminum extrusion. The Y window frame has this complex profile. Because most aluminum window frame has this complex profile. What is meaning about this complex profile? This complex profile is optimized structure as well as reducing the weight. Okay, so means this is not actually random pattern here. They actually consider about to support the weight. So mean they have to make optimized structure. Okay, so this is optimized structure, and also they have to be considered to reduce the weight. The aluminum frame is most popular used in architecture glazing. Why? Because it is good at the corrosion from the water, it has the great finish quality, and it is easy to make any shape by extrusion, and it is very light and strong. Because it's kind of optimized calculation to designing about this complex shape, so it means good for the structure. Also, you can reduce the overall weight. So now we talk about how you can just connect to the vertical frame and horizontal frame. There's two options. The first option you can consider to using the screw port here. Some frame has this screw port. It is very easy to connect between the vertical and horizontal member because they have a hole here, and then the horizontal member having the screw port. So I mean this is very easy to connecting through, right? But if you don't have this screw port, you have to be using the accessory, this connector. So means this is a vertical piece with a hole, and then these connector have to be connected from these horizontal pieces, and then you can just connect the vertical pieces and the horizontal pieces together. You can see that this connector looks like here, and then this connector actually connect to the horizontal pieces over it. Okay. So now it's very important, the topic. What about the thermal break window? So you remember about the aluminum window frame. It is very good conductivity material. It means it is easy to transfer the heat energy. It means through this aluminum frame, you lose the loss of heat energy from the inside. From this reason, you have to be considered to the break, the thermal transfer from inside to outside or outside to inside. So they just kind of consider to design a low conductivity material between outside and inside. They use the rubber gasket here. The rubber is very low conductivity material. That's why the heat energy or heat never transferred through this low conductivity material. So that's why you can totally separating inside frame and outside the frame, but still connected by this low conductivity material, which is the rubber gasket. Okay, so nowadays we are highly recommend using the thermal break window frame rather than just one single piece design. Okay, because about this is much better thermal performance. So you can just kind of consider about this image. So you can see outside and inside. You can use the 3 rubber gasket here. It means it's totally separating from outside inside through this low conductivity material.